Yes, guys, how you doing? Welcome back to Shameless Football with me, Sean Butler, and co-host Henry Wright. How are you, Henry?
I'm good, mate. I'm good. Premier League football is back. Some good games on. Newcastle, Arsenal, Tottenham, Chelsea, and a few others. But we're here to talk about Max Branning, aka Erik 10 games. Because I actually think this is a lot bigger than people are thinking. People are saying, he's not going to get the sack. He's protected. The Glazers have come out and defended him. But normally that's the beginning of the end. When the owners come out and say they're going to protect you, 9 times out of 10,
you've got about 24 hours.
Week. Yeah. You've got like 72 hours before you're getting the elbow.
Before we get into will he, won't he, let's start with should he or shouldn't he. What have you made of Erik Ten Hag's time at Manchester United? He's been here, for a season and like 48 games in the Premier League, 49 games, I think it is in the Premier League, and, a bunch of different cup runs and things. Obviously, he won a trophy in his first year, the Carabao Cup, a trophy that Tottenham fans would absolutely, wet themselves if we won because it's been such a long time. But to teams like Manchester United and to some of the fans, I've spent the last 48 hours listening to Arsenal fans try and justify getting dumped out of the Carabao Cup like they're too good for it. Other fans saying no, you shouldn't be too good for any cup. Is the Carabao Cup success for Ten Hag a testament to why he shouldn't be sacked? His last season, I think they finished third in the league. Has everyone got short memories?
On the League Cup, that's the trophy that you can win first, and it's kind of the building block to springboard you into better things. Guardiola, Jose Mourinho, Alex Ferguson, the first trophy they all ever won in the Premier League was the League Cup.
Right.
It's the first trophy, I believe. I don't think it was Wenger's first trophy. Ten Hag's first trophy as well. And yes, there is an argument that if he wins against Fulham, he's the fastest manager in Premier League history for United to get to 50 wins or whatever it.
50 wins.
But
which is impressive, right? Which is impressive.
It is impressive, but at the same time, the club from the very, very top to the very, very bottom of that football club, it is a toxic mess. Right. The Glazers haven't sold out, which they should. They've brought in a 30% stake to I can't remember what his name is now.
Sir Jim Ratcliffe. 25% stake to Sir Jim Ratcliffe.
25% stake to Jim Ratcliffe. They're one of the worst clubs in the world, in Europe, overpaying for players. 100 million euros for Anthony, 65 million quid for Mason Mount, Lukaku, Pogba. It goes on and on and on and on and on. They don't have a strategy plan. Ever since Alex Ferguson, which would have been 10 years ago this season, they've been miles away from winning the Premier League. The closest they've got was a second under Ole Gunnar Solskjaer and a second under Jose Mourinho. The managers they brought in, like David Moyes, he got the job on a technicality from a legend, Alex Ferguson. We've all seen the video from Andy Tate. Then they brought in, Van Gaal, Jose Mourinho. It hasn't worked. And the big reason it hasn't worked under every manager is because of their ownership. They do not care. Some of the signings Erik Ten Hag has made has been absolutely questionable. He's gone and bought every player that he's either worked with previously or he knows about. So he brought Martinez and Anthony from Ajax. Malacia because he knows him for the Dutch national team. Mason Mount because he was on loan at Vitesse. Onana because he was the Ajax old goalkeeper. It's kind of like when Tottenham fans were criticising Paratici's business in Italy. Oh, we've only bought players out of Italy, but the players we have brought out of Italy have turned out to be gems in Romero, Kulu, Bentancur, right?
Does that signify then, not to get off the topic, but I don't think there's anything necessarily wrong with going back to what I didn't have a problem with Paratici doing it.
Within reason, though. We wouldn't go and pay 80 million for Bentancur.
No. So is it about the money or is it about the quality of the league in which they come from? And if it is, then should we all, as Tottenham fans, not to get off the topic again, but go into the links and rumors to certain players from the Eredivisie with a healthy level of skepticism, because look at Erik Ten Hag's track record of bringing players over that were very, very capable and competent in Holland, but just really haven't hit the ground running at all in the UK.
Yeah. Not only that, mate, his tactics in games are some of the worst I've seen as a Man United coach. While you're playing against Manchester City with Harry Maguire and Lindelof. I mean, that is just...
There's no balance to their team at all.
No, sorry. I think it was Johnny Evans and Lindelof. I can't remember the back two they played, but I'll tell you what it was. It was Harry Maguire and Johnny Evans against Manchester City. Two of the slowest centre-backs in the league coming up against Erling Haaland.
Yeah.
That is like going to McDonald's and ordering a salad.
Yeah, and Rafa and Varane was fit as well, but he decided for tactical reasons not to. Didn't play.
Varane was on the bench, right? Lindelof apparently injured or whatever the reason is. The tactics are horrendous. The body language of the guy, he shows no emotion on the sidelines. I believe the dressing room is actually gone. I completely disagree with the treatment of Jadon Sancho. There is a serious player in there. There's only 3 players in the top 5 leagues history that have got 20 goals and 20 assists. One of them is Lionel Messi, the other is Thierry Henry, and the third is Jadon Sancho.
Yeah, and you can't make the same argument for the German league as you can maybe for the Dutch league, right? So there is a player in there.
20 goals and 20 assists is, I don't care what league you're playing in. That is unbelievable.
Was that before maybe he got corrupted by too much too soon, signing a big contract, getting a big wage, moving into a new...
Well, he joined Man United, and then he's got a better goal to game ratio than Marcus Rashford. But Marcus Rashford can do no wrong in Ten Hag's eyes. He knows he's going to start every single game, regardless of how bad he stinks it out, right? Because he's the golden boy, he's the face of the football club, whatever. He scored 1 goal in 10 games. He scored the same amount of goals. Richarlison has got more goal contributions this season than Rashford.
Yeah.
Right? He had, other than last season where he scored 10 or 15 Premier League goals, whatever it was, 18 goals. The season before he only scored 4. He's a purple patch player. But Ten Hag will not take him out of the team for hook or crook or whatever reason it is because he loves him. Yet Jadon Sancho apparently is this horrendous trainer when all the other players in the football club have come out and defended him. The dressing room is split. Some people are defending Sancho. Some people are defending Ten Hag. And it was exactly the same under Jose Mourinho. Some people defended Pogba. Some people defended Jose Mourinho. And the club eventually has got to make a decision which one of these is going to make us more money in the long run. And that's why they sacked Jose. Because Pogba was selling shirts like hotcakes. I think the club is rotten to the core. They've spent 1.3 billion in the last 13 years or 14 years or whatever it is. How many of their 1.3 billion have been good signings? Bruno Fernandes, right? Will have 6 or 7 bad games, get a couple of goals and assists, and it papers over all the cracks. The club are coming out, tweeting out, Bruno Fernandes scores goals. You can't have Bruno Fernandes as your captain. You can't.
Yeah, he's too volatile and too moody.
Look at the likes of Roy Keane, Gary Neville, Nemanja Vidic, Rio Ferdinand, the captains of the great managers under that football club. And now they've got Bruno Fernandes. It's similar to Arsenal. Vieira, Keown, Campbell, Ashley Cole. And now they've got Odegaard.
Yeah. Well, let me ask you this, though. If you've got... I agree with you that the club appears to be, from an insider and an outsider perspective, that it's rotten to the core. But you can't force the owners out, and you can't sack 20 players of a 25-man squad or 10 players that you think aren't good enough and aren't pulling their weight. Then, ultimately you have to make some sort of change. You can't continue to watch the ship sink without trying to plug a hole here or there. And the obvious candidate, it always does go the way of the manager in the end. But first and foremost, I think that if the manager has lost the dressing room to the point where they're not playing for him, and against the B team's Newcastle side that came out at Old Trafford on Wednesday night, I think it was the second goal when Newcastle won a free kick inside their own half. And Newcastle were up for it. They took the ball. They saw the opportunity. And 5 Manchester United players were just walking. And the ball was taking a quick free kick and it was up the other end of the pitch, and those 5 Man United players continue to walk. It was like they have down tools and aren't interested. And unfortunately, if that is the case, whether it's by hook or by crook, if it's because of Jadon Sancho's treatment, if it's because they just don't like the personality of the manager, if they're not running for you and they're not fighting for you, then I think for me, the decision has to be made that you have to go, even if the dressing room is still working and behind him, but the tactics are just terrible and it looks like they are, then you have to make a really tough decision. But ultimately, before we get to, again, the kind of will he, won't he be sacked, what difference will it make if the rest of the club is as poisonous and toxic as it appears, Henry? What difference will it make if you do
the
sack
club have got to
Ten
come
Hag?
out with some sort of strategy. You look at us, right? Let's rewind back a year ago. It was toxic as can be. Conte was slamming people in the press conferences. We had no director of football. We had no chief head scout. Paratici had all the news of him potentially getting arrested. Fast forward a few months later, then our owner's getting indicted in America. Our football club was an absolute mess. And fair play to Levy, because he brought in a good attacking manager. He's brought in a good director of football. He's brought in another head scout. We can question over what he's done with Gabardini or whatever, but he's now got Scott Munn, Bruno Langer, or whatever his name is, Langer, the new head scout, and the manager all wanting the same thing, to play good, attacking football and to challenge for major honours.
So it's like what Ralph Rangnick said a year or two ago.
Everything's come through.
You have to start with how you want to play, start with the belief system and build everything from there. And Gabardini said in yesterday's interview with The Athletic, from Tottenham's perspective, that Daniel Levy, fair play to him, he has now built the Trinity where everyone is on the same page with regards how they want to play, what the identification process is, everyone's singing from the same hymn sheet. So are you saying then that if you do sack Ten Hag and you bring in the right manager, then things can turn around pretty quickly? Is that what you're saying?
If I was Man United, I'd bring in Hansi Flick and beg Ralph to come back to the football club. Two German people that have got a very good understanding of how football works. You know, Hansi Flick, I think, set a record for the most goals in 1 year in the Champions League. They destroyed Bayern Munich and everyone on their way. Ralph Rangnick, in terms of talent ID and in terms of scouting players, is probably the best director of football in Europe right now. Some of the gems he's picked up through Leipzig, Kimmich.
Is he still managing Austria? I think he's managing the Austrian national team until the European Championships, and then I think he'll be looking for his next gig.
I'm not 100% sure on that, but the only thing I'd say is Ralph Rangnick is not going to step back in Man United. So they need to bring in a manager. Zinedine Zidane is not going to take over Man United. I can't. He's got such a big reputation for winning big honours, 4 Champions Leagues, couple of Ligas here or there. Then they could look at a young attacking manager like the likes of Hansi Flick, De Zerbi, someone else. I just can't see. Antonio Conte is not the answer. Gareth Southgate, what is 100% not the answer. Julian Nagelsmann is now the manager of the national team, and Graham Potter is not the answer. So I don't know what. I don't think there's a manager in world football, not even Guardiola or Klopp, can change Man United unless they say from the very top to the very bottom, we've got a plan. We need to get rid of. There's so many players on that. Like, I'll give you an example, right? Jadon Sancho doesn't want to be there. He's on £300,000 a week.
Yeah, how are they going to sell him, mate? It's exactly the same problem as what Tottenham faced with someone like Tanguy Ndombele. You might find someone who he'll pay £25 million if you lower the asking price enough, but that doesn't mean that Jadon Sancho, just like Tanguy Ndombele, are forced.
I think he wants out, though.
Well, he might want out, but how much? Like, he's not worth 300 grand a week.
No, like, but I reckon Sancho would take a 50% weight. I reckon he'd leave. If you put a scenario out there, Sancho comes and plays on the left in a front three for Tottenham. You get a manager like Ange to put his arm around him, right, and get the technical ability out of him, which we all know.
Is he worth 150 grand a week, though?
Absolutely. What?
On what? Because he did something 4 years ago in Germany. I don't think
Have you
he's
seen
worth
his numbers in the
150 grand
Dortmund
a week.
shirt? Have you seen his numbers in the Dortmund shirt?
Yeah, I know. Yeah, they're spectacular, but that was 3-4
He's got
years ago.
120 goal contributions in 150 games. That's like Messi numbers.
Yeah, but that was when he was 18 and 19.
Man United, though, how many players? Look at Pogba. Pogba's got more
I'm just
technical
saying, in the
ability
last
than
3
half.
years, you haven't seen anything like that from him, and there are question marks about his behavior.
It's Man United as a whole, though.
We don't know what version of the truth is the truth, but there's every chance that you might find like a Dele Alli scenario where it's too much too soon. I know Dele Alli's had his other problems, but there's a hell of a lot of players that start their careers very well and fall off. And I think that to justify even 150 grand, and that's presuming that he would even take the sacrifice. If he was willing to take the sacrifice in the pursuit of saving his career, then maybe that does show a mindset shift and something that's very positive about him, that he's happy to take a step back in order to launch forward and prioritize the long term. So I'm on board with that.
Well, what about if we said January we'll do a loan to the end of the season?
Yeah, or an 18-month loan, and as long as they were to cover the majority of the wages. But herein lies the problem for Manchester United, is that not only are they a complete mess top to bottom, but they are absolutely broke. They are broke. They have got the most amount of money coming in. They're like a rap star who's getting paid £1 million a week, but is spending £1.2 million a week on jewelry or nights out,
a lifestyle, going out, drinking, etc.
It's mad, and like they've got a credit line, they've got massive amounts of debt. Obviously, the Sheikh Jassim, idea was the right one for Manchester United in terms of kind of just getting them out of a massive hole. But you know what? At the same time, they've dug that hole for themselves, and I think it's right that they need to find and claw their way out of it. Teams like Tottenham Hotspur that are more resolute with, and some would say frustratingly strict with their finances at times. When you have Ange Postecoglou coming in, there's going to be money, if necessary, to go and spend. If Manchester United want Ten Hag out, he's got £18 million left on his contract. You're going to have to pay that off. And if you are going to go,
they did this a few times, haven't they? They paid off Van Gaal, Moyes, Jose.
I think the financial situation has got so bleak for them up there that
how has the biggest club in the country ended up like this? Like, we're talking about Manchester United that won 13 league titles.
Right? I think they've got the highest revenue in football in the world.
Yeah, I think it's them in Madrid. Just quickly on Sancho. The reason why I would go for him is because, one, it wouldn't disrupt Son playing through the middle. Two, he can play on the left in a false 9 as a 10 and on the right. 3, he's homegrown. So he ticks a lot of boxes. You just need a manager like what Ange has got, who's got excellent man management. Everyone said that Bissouma was struggling under Conte. Ange puts his arm around him. Look at Bissouma. Look at Romero now. Romero's not sprinting out of his defensive line, smashing into someone. Porro's not got the buy-in. Porro's not poor defensively all over the place. If he puts his arm around Jadon Sancho and gets belief back in Jadon Sancho's game, you're talking about, in my opinion, give him 2 years under Ange, he'd be one of the best wingers in Europe. You don't go from getting 120, 130 goal contributions in 150 games. You go to Man United, the manager slaughters you, throws you under the bus. It's like the David Beckham documentary all over again.
Yeah.
Glenn Hoddle, one of our legends, completely destroyed Beckham. It's a very similar situation.
No, I hear you. And it's a compelling argument to make. And look, it's been about the news, and we'll see what happens with it. I'm not necessarily against it. I just think that it all comes down to dollars and cents with that one, because it's a very expensive gamble to take. But if there's a way to make it work out, then maybe so. But obviously, focusing on the Man United saga with regards to Ten Hag, if they are going to sack him, I don't know where the money comes from. Like, that's how bad it is. That's how tight the purse strings are to be able to, until the Sir Jim Ratcliffe thing is ratified, or if he doesn't get his way. Because I think that I was listening to someone yesterday saying that Sir Jim Ratcliffe is willing to put in more money and sort some of these things out, but as long as he gets guarantees that he was going to transfer the debt, onto the Ineos group books, so that it could free up some wiggle room within the club.
Investors, isn't it? Is it one of our investors?
Ineos is just, I think it's a car or something we're sponsored. Just one of the kind of the
Yeah, he
partners
said
of
he's
the
not
thing,
going to pull
whatever.
out, didn't he? Not only
Yeah.
that, he's got to fix their stadium, mate.
Yeah, stadium is falling apart. Yeah.
Falling apart. It's like Turf Moor. This is Manchester United, mate.
But taking on more debt to do that with the current interest rates where they are and the likelihood of inflation to spike back up again, if there's not to get into politics, but if there's another wave of COVID or something that comes around and there's more damage to the economy, the more printing, more inflation, interest rates go higher, like the whole thing spirals out of control. You're trying to get a loan to upgrade your stadium, another £1 billion in debt. You can't afford it. So to me, it's turmoil at Manchester United. But I just don't know whether sacking Ten Hag scratches the surface of fixing that problem. And who do you bring in? Who would want to come in and touch that? It's the poison chalice right now. No one has done well there since Alex Ferguson left. And at least every other manager has always been given the money to do the job. But I don't think I think the kind of bank for players is almost shut a little bit now. So I just don't see what the right pathway is. But I do think that if Man United lose to Fulham tomorrow morning,
he's out.
It might
I'm
be.
going to make a prediction. They are losing to Fulham. 1-0 Fulham.
You said 1-0 Fulham on the predictions video. By the way, guys, if you're watching that, make sure you check out yesterday's predictions video for week 11. It's only our 4th predictions video.
Yeah, we're only 11 games into the season, but
pretty shameless in terms of content. Yeah, you said 1-0. I think I said 1-1. I don't see United getting a result. I don't see the players turning up for him. Who have Man United got after that? What's their next? Do you know what their next game is?
Yeah, they've got a Champions League game against Copenhagen on the Wednesday, and then they've got Luton at home. Then they've got Everton away. Then they've got Galatasaray.
They're walking into some sort of fortunate run of fixtures then to a degree.
But then after that, they've got Chelsea, Newcastle, Bayern Munich, Liverpool, West Ham, and Villa. So no, they're not.
Yeah. So December's brutal for them, is it? But November's slightly more.
In December, they've got Newcastle on the 2nd, Chelsea on the 6th, Bournemouth on the 9th, a Champions League game against Bayern Munich on the 12th, Liverpool on the 17th, West Ham on the 23rd, Villa on the 26th, Forest on the 30th. I just hope in some way or another Ten Hag is still in charge on the 14th of January when we go there. If they get a new manager bounce, that's going to be an incredibly difficult game.
Just quickly, Man United are sitting 3rd in the Champions League on 3 points from 3 games. Munich at top on 9 from 9. Galatasaray 4 from 3 games. Copenhagen 1 point from 3 games. Man United's next game is Copenhagen away in Denmark. That's a job-saving, job-losing fixture as well. Even if he manages to keep his job after the Fulham game, he loses to Copenhagen, then Manchester United will be bottom of the Champions League group. Yeah. And if they don't qualify into at least the Europa League, surely that's got to be another sackable offence.
I think the Europa League would do them some good. They've got a history winning it. They've won it a couple of times. They've won it under Jose at least. You're not up against Bayern Munich's, Madrid's,
City. Might meet Liverpool at some point, though.
Yeah, if they can avoid Liverpool and probably West Ham, because West Ham have got a bit of a European heritage now. The 17-game unbeaten run, winning the Conference League. I think they're in a mess, mate. I think they're in an absolute mess. And, up the Fulham.
Up the Fulham, indeed. So you're predicting a Fulham win, and you think Erik Ten Hag will be sacked on Saturday night?
Sacked on Sunday.
So before the Copenhagen game. Interesting. I think Fulham will get a draw, but I think Copenhagen will get a result as well. So, yeah, I think we're both, at least, I think you're seeing a sacking happening slightly earlier than I am, but we're both seeing Ten Hag not going to be around for too much longer. Interesting story, mate. Look, I don't know what the solution is for Manchester United. Even if they sack him and they bring in someone else, I don't really see that. That's just papering over the cracks, if I'm honest. But it is what it is. You have to make a decision at some point. You can't continue to watch the club slide. Henry, where can people find you, my man?
Yeah, just at Henry Wright TV. I think I'm quite close to 18k now. I think I'm less than 400 away. from 18k. And yeah, obviously get over to yourself at Spurs Talk Show and subscribe to both the channels.
100%. Guys, also, if you want to join, we're shamelessly late, but we have just decided to set up a shameless...
We're only 11 game weeks late, but...
shameless fantasy league team or league, a fantasy league. The link for that will be in the description, so you can participate in that, and we'll do a video every week talking about who's done what and who's done well and who's been shamelessly poor with their picks. So all the links and the titles for everything are in the description below. We'll leave you there. Have a good weekend, and as always,
up the shameless.
Up the shameless.